I think we have really excellent speakers today here with us, coming from the real world, not coming from the academy. Therefore, they will have a real solution, and I really hope that everybody will enjoy the discussion today. Again, my personal thanks to all committed and professional speakers which decided to attend today. In particular, the first one is Fernando Machinena. He is president now of Oteco Group since more than 15 years. Fernando is an executive with more than 40-year experience, starting in the oil industry, starting in the US, in oil refining, spending decades around the world in Africa, Europe, Russia, Kazakhstan, working for Chevron Corporation for 25 years, and then moving to the higher level of responsibility in Oteco, which is the biggest, largest private rail port complex in Russia, with one of the biggest operations in the Black Sea in Taman port. So Fernando, again, thank you for joining and
okay, well, thank you for the kind introduction. Good afternoon to everyone. So let me share the screen so that we can go through the presentation. So let me tell you about our port. Our port is located in the Black Sea in Russia, in the Taman Peninsula. And our main objective is to provide efficient access for bulk commodities to world markets. And why in Taman? Well, there is deep water, although we have to go 2 kilometers out into the sea and do some dredging. But it's also ice-free. For Russia, that's important. You don't have many locations that are ice-free in Russia. And it was very close to the main rail line of the Russian railroad, fairly flat terrain, so it's easier to build facilities, and away from populated areas, close enough to get labor force, let's say 10, 20 kilometers, but not next to them as in other locations. Now, why build a port in Russia? Well, from the breakup of the Soviet Union, Russia lost 2/3 of their export infrastructure because it was located mostly in the Baltic countries, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, or in Ukraine. So then there was a huge demand for having Russian export infrastructure for commodities. Therefore, as a private investor, we saw the opportunity, and Taman location, it was the most southwestern point of Russia in the south, in the Black Sea. So we have created a very efficient access to world markets by putting state-of-the-art equipment in our terminals to load as big as possible vessels that can go to the Bosphorus in Turkey, and high efficiency unloading of rail cars, loading of ships. So the whole integrated railway to shipping. This is the location at the tip of the Taman Peninsula. This is a picture from a couple of years ago. You can see all the different terminals. Now, as I said, we've been loading since 2012. This is a picture of a fuel tanker. Part of our business model is to have a product stewardship, which means making sure that we protect the value of the bulk commodity, which may seem obvious, but it was not the case in the past. There was no sufficient storage, so different qualities get mixed, whether it's for coal or for fuel oil or for grains. So there's a loss of value by not having sufficient storage. So we have tried to address that. Also, we have tried to ensure that the measurements are accurate and minimize losses. We developed the whole infrastructure from rail cars, rail lines, to storage, to the port to the jetty, to the providing the tug service. I'm not going to go through each slide, not to take too much of your time, just to give you a feel for the scale of our project. Here's our crude oil storage tank farm, and also for fuel oil. In order to protect the environment, we put a specific effort. For example, in the crude oil tanks, we have a floating internal roof and an outside fixed roof. We also have two walls, so which is very unique, separated by 1.5 meters. Therefore, the risk of having a pipeline leak catch on fire and then the tank catching on fire is avoided because of the double tank protection that we have. We also put the state-of-the-art loading arms so that to minimize any spillage during loading. As I mentioned, we measure carefully from the time the rail cars arrive with digitized scales and also with piping meters. We started with a liquid bulk. Now we're doing coal, and the next phase is for sulfur and fertilizers. And here's a picture of some of the storage facilities that we are currently building. We have the offshore part completed. We're using the sulfur facilities to load coal, but also we're loading coal and it's equipped to load iron ore as well. We have 3-pole tipplers that are the only ones in Russia, so we can tip 3 cars at once, each of them. And also we have the largest storage in Russia by far. Our storage is going to be close to 30% of total storage for coal terminals in Russia. So we're several times more than the next competitor. You have a few more pictures of some of the equipment that ship loaders and so on. As Pietro mentioned, protecting the environment is key. With these bulk commodities, there's a lot of dust. So we first protect the storage area with the 25-meter windscreens, which keeps the dust within the storage area, and they are self-cleaning. The wind itself shakes the screen and the dust comes down. We also use water cannons. There are times where you still have very strong wind and you may have some dust blowing, so that in addition to the screens, we need to then also spray water, or in case of a small fire developing. Also for the, when we tip the cars, there's quite a bit of dust, so we have an aspiration system to control that, in addition to some spraying. So quite a bit of emphasis on minimizing dust. Since we have our own tugs to load the ships, control the ships, we also equip them with fire safety in case we had a fire on a ship during loading. Our tugs are equipped to deal with that. Now, what we're doing with the situation with COVID, on one side, we have had 2,500 employees with COVID out of 10,000. So you say, whoa, 25%, that's more than any place else in the world. So perhaps it's a reflection of the amount of testing that we have done, because we have not had any fatalities and minimal hospitalizations. So that measuring employees' temperature, anticipating any sickness has resulted in a higher number of cases, but at the same time, an effective way of dealing with the cases. So that has worked well. We also obviously have very tight control of the crew of the incoming ships for loading. And the key is to make sure that we don't interrupt our services to our customers for loading the ships. We monitor the operation. We have top management involved, daily calls to make sure that things continue to be under control. At the beginning of the pandemic, we had extended operational shifts, for the critical staff. But since then, we have gone back to regular shifts since the testing has proven effective and we're controlling the risk of contamination quite well. We do have quite a bit of on-site accommodations in case isolation of critical staff is required. We have eliminated personal meetings. We use only video conference to ensure that the risk is kept to a minimum. And I say we have our own testing facilities. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions?
Fernando, yeah, many thanks. Really impressive and congratulations for what you are doing, especially for what you are doing environmental side. I have a question, in particular in the country where you are operating and in your past experience, weather condition. How weather conditions normally are affecting your terminal operation, especially concerning bulk operation? I think that there should be some inefficiency during a bad weather condition. How you are managing that topic?
Yeah, you're right. We're particularly affected by weather because we're completely on open sea, an open sea port, and in order to mitigate, and then whenever there is a strong wind, we cannot load the ships, whether it's liquid bulk or dry bulk. Therefore, to avoid having a lot of congestion with incoming rail cars, we have had more storage built than other ports, so we can continue to discharge cars and return the cars. And then on the shipping side, in order to maintain our shipping plans, we have added additional berths for loading capacity, so we have a catch-up capability. So in our facilities, we have designed the concept of catch-up capability so that if we do have a storm, and sometimes we go for 5 days without loading, we can continue to discharge rail cars by having additional storage, and then catching up by being able to bring more ships along the berth and having a high capacity ship loaders. So that's how we are dealing with that situation, which does impact us in the winter quite a bit. During the summer, the storms are less frequent and the winds are less strong. Okay.
Yeah, Fernando, you allow me just a quick second question, because due to your great expertise, I would like to ask you, especially you have a great expertise not only in bulk, but also in many other parts of the logistic. How do you see, because this could be really an interest, how do you see the post-COVID major changes in the logistic of these bulk commodities? You have some few sentences about this topic.
Well, our oil products business has been significantly impacted, as we all now don't fly as often as we used to, and don't drive as much as we used to. So the demand for oil products is significantly down. So in Russia and Europe, the refineries are running a lot less crude. So our oil product business has been reduced probably about 30–40%. And I guess the legacy of this situation will be a lot more video conferencing and a lot less commuting. So, and in addition, there is a significant change in the public opinion about green energy and electric cars and so on, so that even if the commuting was to return, it may be on electric vehicles, not oil vehicles. So I think that from a liquid perspective, in the past, oil and oil products were number one in terms of volume, and that's going to be changing in the future. There will be a lot more LNG and and a lot less oil moved around. I agree with the opinion from many experts that perhaps we have reached peak oil, and we'll see a decrease in demand. Well, and it's being mandated, obviously, in Europe, in several countries, to eliminate fossil fuels.
Yeah.
I guess coal is also going to suffer the same fate, but probably will take a bit longer. I think that oil products will be impacted sooner, and coal also has peaked for the most part. There is increasing demand, substantial demand in India, for example, but a decreasing demand in the US. The US has gone from 1 billion tons to 500 million tons, almost half of what it used to be. So that globally, coal is flat now, and it will be decreasing in the West, and it will be increasing in the East, but eventually will also decrease in the East as well.
Yeah, in more long term, yes, this is the same forecast. I can agree 100%. Fernando, thanks a lot. It was great to get your presentation, really impressive, and congratulations for what you are doing. Our second speaker of today was supposed to be Gary. Unfortunately, last minute he was not able to join, hopefully not for health issue. We don't know really, but we wish the best for Gary. Therefore, Mahmoud is our second speaker of today. And Mahmoud is a mechanical engineer, more than 15 years experience in the technical side. He started working in fiberglass piping, and then he moved to join Al Ghurair family in Dubai. Al Ghurair Group is a huge group with a lot of interest from cement, bulk, agri-bulk, sugar, and Mahmoud is currently responsible for the construction of the biggest sugar factory in the world. Will be built and advanced already is ongoing in Armenia region, 400 kilometers south of Cairo. This is a factory, 36,000 ton beet capacity per day, and it is expected to generate sugar for the local market and a lot of beet for export. Therefore, Mahmoud now will show us his experience in logistic shipping of agri-bulk. Agri-bulk, especially during COVID period, was having a peak because agri-bulk is much more linked to food industry, and food was not decreasing during COVID. On the contrary. Therefore, Mahmoud, to you the floor, and go ahead.
Thank you, Pietro. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening for those who are in the evening. I would like to split my topics into 3 parts. The first part is I will go briefly about discussing the sugar factory and the operation and the business of that sugar factory in Dubai. Then I will talk, because the sugar that comes to Dubai comes from Brazil, then I will talk about the ports in Brazil and their situation with the COVID and handling the raw material from there. And then I will end up the discussion talking about that interesting project in Egypt, which is the biggest sugar factory in the world. So we'll start with Dubai. For those who know Al Khalij Sugar, it is the biggest standalone sugar refinery in the world with a daily capacity 7,000 tons per day, and we employ roughly 800 personnel. For those who doesn't know sugar, the biggest sugar factory, usually the standards that work in the market are between 3,000 to 4,000 tons per day. So when we talk about 7,000 tons, it's like almost double the size of a normal sugar factory. A new set record of 7,370 tons has been achieved in 2016, and since then we've reached that level around 10-15 times. We're not in so much pressed to achieve bigger numbers than this, but usually the factory runs with a steady capacity of 6,000 tons, and only when the demand is high, that means there is fully booked sales, we go and shoot up the numbers to 7,000. It is not wise to operate the factory at its maximum capacity full time. That's why our average production is around 6,000 tons per day. In 2017, the group, that means the factory, has been able to achieve a 1.87 million ton total production, and that is a big score compared to usual annual sales is around 1.5 to 1.6 million tons. So 2017 was very successful. This refinery alone contributes in around 3% of the global annual refined sugar production. Out of this, let's say 1.5 to 1.8 million tons, around 200,000 tons goes in Dubai. It gets consumed in the UAE as a country, Oman and Saudi, and the remaining goes on export. So the export is a huge part. So this business is built on export. The raw sugar that is used in this factory is usually imported from Brazil. Say give it 95%, because we have our own agreements with Brazilian mills to give us our own type of raw sugar, which is better raw sugar compared to the market one, in order to be able to process it easily and at low costs. Usually this raw sugar is shipped using Panamax type ships, between 60 to 80,000 tons, and this is also rare in the world of sugar. Not all the factories or the ports could receive this one due to limitations, either in the draft or in the storage. For us, our way of doing the business made us improve the capacity. Usual sugar refineries around the world, they trade between 30 and 40,000 tons boats, and they design their stores according to this. Only now lately that this capacity has increased to 60,000 tons, but very rare numbers could accommodate the 80,000 tons ships. For us, we found that this is something which is very interesting, plus it is more economical to go on bigger capacity, and then we've increased the draft at our jetty, because our factory is directly on the sea. So we increased the draft. It was in the beginning 12 meter, and we made it 15 meter clear draft. And then we invested into our storage. So if you see in the picture below, you could see that we have, in this sugar refinery, there is the biggest standalone storage of 1 million ton. And then there are these three which are on the back side. These are the three high-rise silos of 170,000 tons each. So totaling an amount of 1.5 million tons of raw sugar being stored over there. And that gave us the edge of playing the market very well, importing when we want and storing as much as we want, rather than being forced by the capacity of the store to order while the market is up. So our orders are all the time played the right way, and that gave us a great benefit over other sugar refineries that allowed us to keep surviving in the export market, which is already a tough, very tough market. Our draft, as I said, is around 15 meters here in Dubai, while the ports in Brazil from where we bring are having a draft between 13 to 14.5 meters. The biggest ship that we had ever brought was from Brazil around 3 years ago, and it was 108,000 metric tons. It was a little bit, it faced difficulties leaving Santos port, but we in our port, we were receiving it very well, and it was unloaded very successfully. We use 4 lever fixed grab crane, tower cranes, in order to unload the sugar with a capacity of 3,000 tons per hour. The sugar that is unloaded, we also care about environmental and dust-free. We use traditional methodology, but we trained our operators to reduce the dust emission in line with DP World requirements and the government of Dubai and the world. So the sugar that is unloaded is being weighed into our weigh scale, and then after that it will go into the network of conveying system where it gets distributed in one of the 4 silos that are in front of us in the picture. In 2020, Dubai imported, we're the main importer in Dubai, but I would say Dubai because there are some traders that also that does a little bit of import. So in Dubai, the import of raw sugar was around 1.4 million tons. While if we see in the graph, I placed this as an interesting document. If you see in the graph, China, the third one, between 2019 and 2020, the numbers has increased from 1.5 million ton to 4.13 million ton, which is almost 3 times. And this was a result of the COVID. In 2020, the Brazilian sugar export has increased drastically. And also, as we see in the pictures here, these pictures accommodate for mainly Santos and Paranaguá ports. In up to November, these figures are all taken up to November, between November 2019 and November, up to November 2020. We could see that there is from 13.9 million tons in 2019, the export from Brazil from these 2 ports to 22.6 million tons in 2020 up until November from both Santos and Paranaguá. And the biggest contribution was for Santos, where the number has raised up from 11.6 million tons in 2019 November up to 19.13 million tons in 2020. Paranaguá is a smaller port and is mainly known for container rather than for bulk cargo, but still, instead of 2.3 million tons in 2019, they have made 3.4 million tons in 2020. That is related to the raw sugar. Now, about the refined sugar, once the sugar has been refined and purified, it goes in our refinery into also concrete silos that are very well maintained and isolated with aeration network in order to preserve that sugar and maintain it from lumping and from the environmental conditions. Then upon orders, we bag that white sugar into multiple types. For local market, we use like the cement, not containers. We use this, Pietro, help me. Tankers, sorry, we use tankers. We use jumbo bags and 50 kilos. For export, the majority of the export is usually done by containers. However, when we have big orders, because we in our factory, we're known for big orders, that means crossing the 25,000 tons. So for orders which are above 25,000 tons, we usually, either the customer or us agree that we place the bags directly into the holds of the ship, which is a break bulk shipment, but with white sugar bags, and we book the complete ship to the customer. In 2020, Dubai exported roughly 1.2 million ton of refined sugar. Now, the challenges which are post-COVID were a huge lineup in the Brazilian ports. That was what affected us and affected others. If we look at the time between May and September in the presentation, and if we go to Santos directly port, we could see that the lineup, for example, in July at Rumo, instead of 1.6 days, it jumped to 40 days. And at Rumo 19, from 0 days to 45 days. In August, the figures are also close, from 2.5 days to 42.6 days. In September, from 3.8 days to 23.7 days. So here there are 2 factors. We do not have the analytics to know which one has contributed more into that average waiting time increase to this level. But it's clear that this is a result of the increase in the amount of export and also the reduction into the amount of manpower and the limitation into that was caused by the COVID and the lockdowns that has taken place. So post-COVID challenges for us in Dubai or in the Gulf, we didn't have major impact. Being food commodities, we were able to work normally during the lockdowns from our houses, from the offices. We reduced the capacity of the offices to 30%, 20% as per the directive of the government. And we were operating and we were able to move. The factory was running full time also, but with limited number of employees and laborers to maintain a safe environment. On the ground, we were between 30 to 50% the manpower, and we were able to achieve only 20% reduction in efficiency compared to the stages where we were pre-COVID, even though we were working with 50% capacity on the ground. So that is I spoke about the break bulk. Now we talk about the containers. The containers, which is clear to everyone, has faced huge delays, especially the containers coming from the Far East. There was a huge delays in the availability of boxes, which continues up till date. So today there is a big problem and shortage in the availability of the boxes. And there is a huge delays in the shipping lines. Like to give an example, for the sugar factory that we're building in Egypt, we're importing lots of items from the Far East, from Europe and wherever, and we are facing in some shipments 2.5 months of delays, where the schedule of the ship keep changing and keep changing and keep changing. This is with regard to the sugar business in the Gulf and in Brazil. Now, I didn't have lots of pictures to share. I would ask Peter to share a video about the sugar factory in Egypt. Peter, could you please share the video? I'll explain while it is running. So this, I will show you now on Google Maps, on Google Earth, where does that one stand. So this is inside the biggest white sugar silo in the world, which is 400,000 tons. Yes, in Dubai we have 1 million ton, but that is raw sugar, while this white big egg, as the German name it, it is 400,000 tons of white sugar. It's the biggest in the world ever. This factory is designed to handle 36,000 tons of beet per day. The biggest sugar factory available in the world currently has the capability of processing 24,000 tons, and if they squeeze themselves, they could process for a few days 30,000 tons. While our design is made on 36,000 tons and capable to stretch it to 40,000 or 42,000 tons per day. This makes it by far the biggest sugar factory in the world, contributing into only satisfying the local market, the local Egyptian market. This factory could produce around 800,000 tons of white sugar for local consumption, while Egypt imports around 1.5 million tons of white sugar for the local market. I'll go back to this, but nothing interesting anymore in the screen. So I will put my Google Earth, and then I will keep talking. So here I'll go back to the description of the project. For those who are not familiar with Egypt, I'll show you a little bit the scale of the project, because really it is gigantic. Here is Cairo, and then we go south towards Alminia. This here the yellow line is the Nile River. So we are 40 kilometers away from the Nile River. It is literally what you see over here. Unfortunately, Google Earth is not updating their pictures so far in this area. Otherwise, we could have seen a better progress, especially in the area of the triangle over there where the farm, because plantation has been intensively done there. So the Nile River is here in the yellow line, and the plantation, as you see, historically it's around the Nile River. They do the traditional plantation of flooding, irrigation by flooding. And then here all the farmers are having small plots that they develop. Year after year, the area more to the west was under development. And if you could see here in the picture, here on the right side next to the Nile River, there are more developments done by local farmers. That means the local population, they plant small plots and they develop them for either trading, that means for selling to live, or for their local consumption. While when it comes to this yellow other line here is the highway connecting Cairo with Aswan. So our factory starts from here, our land. This land is from the road to here is 30 kilometers, and then from here to here is 40 kilometers, and from here to here is 30 kilometers. This is 800,000 fadans, acres, which is 200,000 hectares of land that is designed to develop 40% of our beet demand, and the remaining beet will be outsourced from the neighborhood. If you see here in the picture, there are lots of, it's a port terminal presentation, but I will share a little bit about agriculture, because agriculture also is something which is very interesting, especially when it comes to a land which is like this. It's a land which is completely desert that will soon be, hopefully next year, you will get a good picture over here, which is completely green. So currently here, some companies has developed some agriculture, and they have successfully done some pivots, plantation, and they were very, very successful, and they had very good results and very good yields. The water that they use for such is an underground water from wells. We are also drilling wells. Up till now, we have drilled around 200 wells at depths of something 250 to 300 meters, and we're getting very good water, very good quality water with low salinity. The beet does not get affected with the salinity in any case, so it is not bad. Now for us, you know, we're investing in Egypt. Egypt is a poor country, so we're not expecting any support from the government. Also here, we've done great achievement. We've set over here a 60-kilometer road on ourselves. So we've done almost our own highway over here. Now the next step is that in this region over here, there will be lots of farmers on this side. And the nearest highway is around 100 kilometers to do the road to come here. So we will be connecting a road from here to the network of the government. And we will be connecting a road from here to the network of the government, and then minimizing the potential driving distance. So we will be connecting this site to this road. So this guy, in order to come to our site, he has to come all the way. It is 100 kilometers. So we will be doing a road from here to here, something like, I don't know, 30 kilometers, and a road from here, which is 27 kilometers. I don't know the exact details where they are, because as I told you, the map is not updated. And it will allow us to access these areas on a direct go, rather than they travel the right ways and come all the way to reach out to the site. So there is really a great thinking behind developing this area. It is, for any normal person that passes by that area, he will think that this is a normal desert that is not suitable for any kind of life, and then he will continue his way without even paying any attention to that. But the fact that all these developments has been done is really, really attractive. And it's, in my opinion, I would name it, being, because I live there nowadays, so I would name it, it's a miracle. We're benefiting from the presence over there in eating all the type of fresh vegetables. They have done plantation of nectarine over there. They have done plum. They have done apricot. They are doing dates. The Majdoul dates is very, very successful. They are doing also their grapes. Their grapes is really, really, really super. Figs. What we name it? The cactus, and all types of vegetables. And this area is usually reserved for very good brand of product, which is reserved for export. Thank you so much for listening. I finished.
Thank you very much, Mahmoud. Really very much interesting, especially logistic connected to agri-bulk is really interesting because it's a very niche market, very peculiar, with a lot of details about how to design. I have one quick question because we are really running out of time. Just to know, really very quick, what is the main peculiarity, in your opinion, we should follow in order to design agri-bulk logistic?
Bigger capacities, that's what you already stated, bigger capacities and reduction in logistics.
Mahmoud, thanks a lot, really. It was very much impressive. The next floor is for Vincenzo. Vincenzo now is Vincenzo De Falco is living in Far East country of the world, in Singapore, since many years. He is a business development manager, Louis Dreyfus Port Logistic. Everybody knows who is Louis Dreyfus. And Vincenzo spent full years in the marine industry. Mainly he was in the financial side because he was first in Coeclerici as a financial controller, and then he started to be involved in the commercial and business development, and then following different positions in Indonesia and then in Singapore, and now he's covering the support for Louis Dreyfus in that part of the world, which you know is one of the most interesting and sparkling area of the world. So Vincenzo, up to you for our next presentation for today.
Thank you, Pietro. You can see my screen, my presentation?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much. First of all, let me allow to introduce a little bit of Louis Dreyfus, even if, as you know, everybody knows the group. But Louis Dreyfus is traditionally a shipping company focused on dry bulk transportation. Over the years, the group is evolved and diversified in different areas, what we call marine industrial, so cable laying, wind farm, maintenance vessel, or RoRo, and of course port and logistics. As port and logistics, we cover basically what I call the last or the first mile. So we provide integrated solutions to company, enabling them to import or export their commodities and raw materials in an efficient way where there is a condition of lack of infrastructure, so mostly developing countries. So we are specialized in shallow water transportation, of course, we in port operations and transshipment. Let me go into the topic of our webinar. I would like to briefly, let's say, explain that to bring our, let's say, on-field experience. As LDPL, most of our activities are in remote areas and so developing countries. And of course, we force us as organization to develop processes and procedures, allowing us to guarantee continuous operation operation. So issues coming from political reasons, changing government, seize of assets, nationalization, health issues like virus, for instance, this pandemic, or endemic disease like yellow fever or malaria. So we already have in place process and procedures, and actually we have been working in Sierra Leone through the Ebola outbreak, as well as for instance in Guinea or in UAE during this pandemic and COVID. We've been guaranteeing our clients continuous operation. So in a way, as organization, we are prepared to this kind of solution. However, post-pandemic is changing a little bit the panorama, because it's been affecting worldwide in a very impressive way, as we all know. So we let's say what we expect the challenge to be post-COVID is more in terms of like prediction capability. So how long it will take to go to normality, but even more what normality will be. As we were saying before, which kind of technology we will apply, what kind of human resources we need, skills we need. So, and predicting all this is going to be the real challenge, according to my view. And of course, what kind of regulation will remain in place? What kind of restriction? This is very uncertain. And of course, we have geopolitically, we have not an international coordination. I don't know, for instance, for yellow fever, you're going to have your passport for yellow fever. For COVID, we don't know what is going to happen, if it's going to give us a passport allowing us to travel again. So this is a big challenge. We have been identified 4 main areas of challenge post-COVID. First is human resources. Second is procurement and technical management. Third is for working capital management. And third is, of course, business development, how we do new projects in this kind of situation and uncertainty. I'm going to go through each of them. I will try to be fast because we are short of time. So when I say human resources, I mean more crew management, crew changing. So the challenge will be mostly related to travel restriction and regulation to predict what kind of how they will evolve and which kind of restriction we're going to have. So predict travel options. So which hubs are working, which airlines, at what regime, for instance. There are continuous changing, and of course these are putting pressure on our crew, on crew changing, and so we have to adapt as organization, and we have to find new solution. And this also will depend a lot on what kind of technology will be available for us. So and for instance, if for handling the same 4 million tons of bauxite, we'll need less human input, less crew on board. This is uncertain still, and this we have to work, of course, together with manufacturer and who is proposing technologies and finding solution. For our side, on our side, we are simply like widening our crew nationalities, so the source of crew. We are assuming in our plan longer traveling time, considering quarantines, PCR test, and we are putting in place definitely backup plans to adjust continuously our crew change process. For example, in certain cases, we are predicting to allow same crew to remain a longer period on working on site in remote areas. But this, of course, will trigger the challenge of managing human fatigue on board and stress. On this point, LDA as group is signatory of the Neptune initiative, which for seafarers to consider them as priority people for vaccination, and so allow them to travel more safely. The second topic I see is on procurement side. So, for instance, we are simply, we know that COVID has been affecting the production capacity of manufacturers, and now of course they are getting back, but of course, you know, orders are lining up, and so is a massive disruption in the supply chain. We as buyers, the challenge we see is how this will normalize. And of course, and what kind of, so we have been trying to bring actions and as buyers simply take in consideration all this uncertainty related to production and capacity and its normalization. For instance, you know, we are simply thinking on for instance, stock more. Okay, we're gonna have stock more instead of having three months of consumables or spare parts. Maybe we're gonna have 5, 6, and then we are running all this kind of simulation and predictions, which is hard this way. That's the challenge. And also Mohamed was mentioning before. You know, containers, freight forwarding, lack of containers. This will affect a lot our future operation and how companies will reorganize themselves, manufacture, freight forwarding in order to cope with those challenges, because we are not even sure, you know, future waves, future pandemics and viruses, because, you know, scientists in the world, they are not excluding these options. And one more challenge from the procurement, from the technical point of view for us is technical management. Of course, as company, we are relying partially on technical assistance from manufacturer, of course, because we cannot build in-house all this specialization. So cranes, conveyors. We need to have after sales agreement with the manufacturer. Therefore, all this travel restriction, it can affect our operation. So what we do, we are predicting, shall we have more skilled personnel on site, so to have a backup plan if people from you know, manufacturing cannot travel, so, or even our own people in the head office cannot travel. So this is something that we are trying to adapt, and we are trying to face as challenge in the future. Third is, of course, these two main challenges it bring us, you know, to another challenge that I foresee is working capital management. As simple as to say, project costs are increasing because, of course, you need travel is increasing, you need is longer, travel costs are increasing. You know, sometimes we need to find you know, different, you know, partnership to chart with other companies working in the same site, to charter flights to bring our crew there. So this is increasing cost. Even if we have to stock more spare parts and consumable, this is, as a matter of fact, increasing our project cost. Of course, if we have contracts already signed 1-2 years back, it's difficult to adjust payment terms, and so there is a mismatching, and this is, of course, is putting pressure on the working capital management. So, what action we foresee? We're gonna need working capital facilities with our mainlanders in order to bridge this requirement. But how long we're gonna need it? And, you know, because maybe you're gonna build up working capital facility, which maybe in half year, 1 year, you don't need it anymore because it's going to be normalized. This is the difficult prediction we are facing. Then it goes to the fourth okay, maybe one more point, sorry, before going ahead is you know, for instance, we might bring also investment to keep more people on our accommodations. So this is strategically, as company, we are trying to cope with these challenges and see best result for it. Okay, this is more my bread and butter. The fourth main, let's say, challenge I see is business development. So, of course, without being able to travel, you have a limited interaction with clients and customers, even present or future. So it's difficult to, and especially like in countries like Southeast Asia, where I'm based, where relationship with clients is a key factor. It's very difficult to even implement new projects because people sometimes they are reluctant to speak about business on a Zoom. So of course, this it will depend in which countries and which kind of nationalities you are dealing with. Of course, if you're talking about Europe or other countries where they are more used to Zoom or other digital tools, we are trying to implement digital tools to have more, let's say, interaction with our clients. Of course, instead, if we are in Southeast Asia or in Asia itself, how to do? Okay, maybe we have to increase our local presence on site. So we have to invest in people, train them, to have more business development personnel, more operation people, technical people probably on site. In terms of business development, it's also affecting, and probably also to company like yours, is how I evaluate the project feasibility. So if I cannot travel, I cannot make like on-site surveys, even simply a draft survey. So how do I do that? How do I address these things? So again, technologies, remote, how to address these issues. This is also a big challenge. Also collecting data on site is collecting data. So probably we have to invest more in database, in creating our own database and analytical tools in order to crunch data that we buy or we source from third parties that we cannot source on site. So this is I think is going to be a challenge in the future. It's actually also present now. Of course, and last but not least is contractual management. So what is going to be the impact of COVID clauses in our contract? So BIM, of course, is issuing new clauses for crew change in the time charter contract. So and for instance, force majeure will be pandemic or COVID considered still a force majeure. This is going to be actually contractual issues with with clients as well. That's it. This is my presentation. I've tried to be very quick. I hope not too much, but at least I was trying to be very effective.
Vincenzo, thanks a lot. This is definitely another view of what we are facing every day. You are just summarizing in few words the real topics of every day. You are surely with a great financial background. Therefore, I have this kind of question. If you can give a suggestion, PEMA is an association of manufacturers of machinery and components for the port industry. So in the association, there are the biggest machine manufacturers. And the question is the following. How do you see a business model after COVID where the manufacturers of machinery are delivering to the clients their machinery and equipment as a service? I mean, to move CAPEX to OPEX and delivery one machine able to give maybe ton per hour production and clients paying on the ton per hour production instead of paying the asset of the machinery. How do you see in your business something that could fly?
I think it is definitely something that we will be open to evaluate as company, because of course from our side we'll give the guarantee of commitment and long-term view for the manufacturer. So the manufacturer itself will be able to finance themselves the production and to give us a service rather than an asset. This is definitely something that I see as a big improvement in our industry, and I'm definitely open to have a look at it. What I might see on the manufacturer side, because we might let's say shift the financing problem from the operator to the manufacturer. So how you how you finance your asset in order to give us a service. So so this might be the issue, but definitely probably on our side we have to guarantee a certain commitment and in turn to our clients. So therefore probably is the way to make like probably financial institution comfortable of financing manufacturer itself. I don't know if I reply to your question.
Thanks a lot, Vincenzo. Now I will move, and very nice, last but not least, our nice lady of today, which is Francesca Bonsignore. And Francesca, she's a naval architect. She's a marine engineer with more than 15 years experience in providing consultancy service in the logistic sector, supply chain and offshore terminals. Francesca has a deep technical background, and she was working for Lotte Marine, then she was working for Rina Consulting. Nowadays she's a consultant associate in Rock3 Consulting. Rock3 Consulting is the Italian branch of Rock3 Logistic. Rock3 Logistic is one of the biggest operator in Far East, based in Singapore, with a lot of coal transshipping operation in Indonesia and in Russia. Francesca was the project manager of the biggest floating terminal in the world in operation, which was the Vale operation. And Francesca will give us a very nice presentation about transshipper and offshore operation. To you, Francesca, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pietro. Thanks, Ottonen, for the invitation, and thanks to all of you for being here. So very quickly about my company, Rock3. Rock3 was...
Sì.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Allora, signor professore, vediamo un po'. Accurazione.
Okay, so Rock3 was founded in 2007 and is a market leader in providing innovative logistics solutions for handling and delivery dry bulk materials, mainly based on transshipment solutions. So what are transshipment solutions? Transshipment systems are highly efficient solutions to complement and expand shore-based terminals, overcoming infrastructure limitations and also regulatory constraints. With floating solutions, ports can load or receive, depending on the side of the supply chain, larger vessels. In this way, let's say with transshipment solutions, we can support suppliers and receivers to maximize vessel size and so to minimize transportation cost, and also maximize flexibility so as to meet dynamic commercial drivers. Additionally, increasing the vessel size, we can assist, let's say, in meeting the goals of reduction in CO2 emissions for each ton of cargo transported. A clear case study for transshipment solutions and floating terminals is Indonesia. Indonesia reached a record of 616 million tons of coal production in 2019, and the target for 2020 was 550 million tons. The main destinations for Indonesian coal are China and India. In Indonesia, the lack of railway infrastructures and deep water ports has pushed significantly towards the utilization of floating solutions, mainly based on towed barges and offshore facilities. That ranges from small floating cranes, let's say with handling capacity from 10,000 to 25,000 tons per day, up to larger floating terminals that can exceed 50,000 tons per day of capacity. Rock3 in Indonesia owns 4 floating terminals and operates them as well, and they allow to smoothly load the largest vessels. The way these floating terminals are designed, they can provide exactly the same services as shore-based terminals. They have fast loading rates, storage capacity, homogeneous blending, mechanical sampling, online analyzers, metal detector, and separator, weighting services. So let's say it's really floating terminals. Another example to see how floating solutions can supplement port capacity is our operation in Far East Russia. In this case, our operation is throughout a joint venture we have with AMCO, East Mining Company, to export coal from the port of Shakhtyrsk in Sakhalin Island. Weather over there is really a challenge. There are about 8 months of ice-free operation, and so the weather conditions during the winter period are really challenging. Here, the transshipment solutions are provided by a multi-purpose Supramax vessel, RT Genova, the one you can see in the slide, and a self-propelled floating terminal, MCO-1, plus a fleet of self-propelled barges. With this floating solution, it was possible to minimize the upgrade required to the shore facilities and increase significantly, as you can see, the volume from about 7.5 million tons during these 8 months of operation as before, let's say, having the transshipment operations in place, up to 10.7 million exported in 2020. Also, the vessel size has been increased significantly. Now the majority of the vessels are Panamax vessels, so gearless vessels, and there's also the possibility of loading Cape-size vessel, and the first Cape-size was loaded in May 2019. So the larger vessels can allow for reduced transportation costs to industry, reduced emissions in the air, but also allow to initiate cost-effective sea routes, opening new markets for the supplier. Now, let's say coming to the topic of the webinar, COVID-19 and the impact on, let's say, our operations and dry bulk operations. Projects need to continue. And for this topic, I'd like to present you our recent project where we have converted a post-Panamax vessel into a floating hub that will work in the Arabian Gulf. The post-Panamax vessel was arrived at the shipyard, COSCO Guangzhou in China in June 2020. So the conversion works have been carried out under all the stringent and challenging restrictions due to coronavirus pandemic to ensure safety. And we managed to finish and complete the conversion on time and within budget. What made this possible, first of all, is the good collaboration between the Rock3 team and the client and all the suppliers. And most of all, the resilience of our team. Technology has also played a big role in this project, definitely providing tools for remote inspections, so allowing us to follow the conversion very closely, also at the distance. And another key point was the innovative use of the 3D laser scanning that eliminated any possible gap between design and reality, so making it possible, let's say, that we had very few surprises. This is really an important lesson learned for us as a company and for the industry, when you can translate instantly details into an AutoCAD drawing, then you can proceed much more quicker and efficiently. The transshipment vessel is just arrived in the Arabian Gulf, and commissioning and crew training has just started. Then, as also Vincenzo said previously during his speech, our operations takes place in remote places. And so even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we felt the urgent need for a tool that allowed us to follow our operations from the distance. This is why we have developed this application, the cargo scheduling application, which is a Rock3 proprietary software developed and in operation since May 2015. Through this CSA, users and customers can monitor operations lively and receive updates on schedules, shipments, and all information of the vessel on the vessel's operation can be available, let's say, live. On each of our floating crane, there are on average 12 cameras, including thermal cameras as well. And so users can see real-time images and monitor the various operations, both on a mobile application and from the office on a dashboard. CSA is also a large database hosted on Microsoft Azure that can provide historical information on vessels, weather trends, cargo movements, bunker conditions. So from the office, we are able to use this tool and analyze data in order to take then informed decisions. That's all for my presentation today. Thank you for the attention and any question.
Francesca, many thanks for this different view of logistic, which is very interesting. It is clear that floating terminals are offering different opportunities from ports, because of course floating terminals are a different way of solving the export-import operation. And when there is a lot of restriction in the draft or restriction in authorization, etc., and also in the environment. I have a question for you anyway. Nowadays, governments consider really a strategy to reduce CO2 emission, and everybody is talking about green economy. Any project you did or you have designed in the past with a real green transshipper? Because you are in the middle of, you are far away from the coast, but this doesn't mean that pollution is allowed. It is even more stringent, the zero dust emission policy. What is your experience here?
Yes, thanks, Pietro, for this good question. You give me the let's say occasion to go back some years back when in my previous company, Logmarine, we assisted Mitchell Group for the Fitzroy project, where we designed the supply chain and export chain for coal from Queensland. And specifically, the gateway for the coal was within the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. So Australia and the Great Barrier Reef Maritime Authority developed very stringent regulations to protect the environment, sea, air, and the environment, let's say, more generally speaking. So this aspect was taken into consideration from the very, very early stages of the project. We started studying the solution, the logistic solutions with this in mind. So at the initial stage, we performed dynamic simulations to, with the first goal was to find the right balance between dredging, which is universally considered as something that has to be avoided, and then impact from the day-to-day operation, which means not only emissions, but also visual impact, the traffic on the rivers, noise, vibrations, so all aspects, let's say, were taken into consideration. So the supply chain, the barges and the transshipment vessel were selected, considering this, performing a cost-benefit analysis based on data taken from a simulation. Coming to the floating terminal, also we had to consider of course, all the international regulations at the time, but wanted to exceed all, let's say, the limits set from there. Beside, let's say, from a cargo handling perspective, the great focus was on the grabs, to minimize spillage, spill plates, to prevent spillage to be dispersed in the water. There was a water treatment and recycling system to collect all the rainy water and the water from the deck. Also, paints, colors, lighting was studied very carefully, because there was a very an important challenge in guaranteeing all the safety for, of course, for workers on board, but also to protect the environment where there were turtles and dolphins that could have been affected by a strong lighting system. So at the time also we started collaborating with RINA, the Italian Classification Society, to the preparation of a dedicated notation, class notation, to address this topic, so to minimize the environmental impact of floating terminals. And so starting from there, then the notation was developed and now includes potential source of pollutions related to the operation of units operating at a fixed location like floating terminals are, including dust and any other aspects we have already covered, so visual impact, lighting, and also there's the tools to reduce, of course, this impact, guaranteeing safety at the same time. So the notation is now there. It's called the Green Plus notation, and the first floating terminal that was that has taken this class notation was one of the Rock 3 terminals built in 2015, and it's the Apollo, FTS Apollo.
Thanks a lot, Francesca. We have some questions from the participants. One in particular is for Fernando. Fernando, did you face any local or government regulation regarding dust generation for the bulk materials? And which company this is, if you can tell, was the supplier for the dust protection fence, those you have shown in the pictures in Taman area?
Those are very good questions, but very detailed for my knowledge. So, but as far as the government requirements, we exceed the requirements of the government because we are by far the best equipped terminal in Russia. Now, as far as who provided the defense, I'll have to get the information and provide it in writing.
Okay, thanks a lot. Another question is for Francesca. What collision avoidance system do you use on your transshipment? This is an issue, or automatic mooring and collision prevention is an issue, or it's something too much sophisticated in the transshipment industry?
I would say it's not really an issue in our operations. Of course, we comply with international regulations. So for lighting and any let's say international regulations are regarding collision, but let's say specifically speaking about transshipper, I would not see this as an issue.
Then I have a question again more for Fernando, coming from the audience, about the temperature, again weather condition and temperatures. How the temperature, okay, in Russia, Taman during winter season should be very cold, and also Sakhalin Island should be very cold. How much weather condition, temperature in particular, are affecting your operation?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we don't have ice, although it can get very cold. It can get to -15. And because of the wave of splashing, ice will build on the structures, around the structures, but the sea stays open. There is deep enough that you don't, and then there's enough wind interaction. Ice does not form on the sea. Temperature-wise, yes, it can get down to -15, usually in January or February. But other than that, usually in the winter, we're just above freezing temperature in Taman. So for Russia, we do have an advantage versus other locations that the average winter temperature could be -10 or -5, slightly lower than in Taman.
Whereas I think that East Mining Company operation is a major issue in Sakhalin Island. Francesca, what do you can say here?
Yeah, Sakhalin Island, let's say the operation takes place over about 8 months. During the ice period, operation need to stop. So basically, let's say mid-December to March, that depending on the year and when ice forms and when it melts. But yeah, during the ice period, we cannot operate. So the volumes showed also in my presentation are performed during the 8 months of operation. This was really a challenging because the capacity of the system, of course, needs to take this into consideration, and so the daily rate has to be considered based on the operation days.
There is another question again for Fernando. Is really our star, about rail car size, rail car size irregularities, how they can influence the car dumper operation in Russia, and considering the unique system of your car dumper, there is a technology in place to control the rail car model and size. This is a detail about the dumper you have in Taman. Technical question.
Yeah, no, there are many modules being used in Russia, different sizes, and the equipment was designed to accommodate the different sizes. Now we do separate the cars. Every 3 cars are separated from the rest, but then there are some clamps that adjust to the size of the car and tip the cars. The car's payload is 70 tons. Not as much as you will find in the US or Australia, where you can get as many as 100 tons per car. So from a weight perspective, they're limited on the weight per axle. The payload will be very similar. From a sizing perspective, yeah, there will be different sizes. So the equipment has been designed to accommodate the different sizes.
Okay, thanks a lot. A more general question again.
I have. Sorry, Pietro. I have something to say about the question to Francesca. I believe that on the other hand, like in ship-to-ship operation, collision is an issue. It may frequently happen, for instance, because we are talking about a Supramax approaching a Panamax offshore with swell, waves, wind, current. So therefore, okay, even if you don't apply any automatic, let's say, anti-collision avoidance systems, it goes how you equip your transshipment, your ships in order to do offshore operations. For instance, our barges in UAE that we're using for transshipping coal for Russian Electric, the power plant, are equipped with 4 azimuth thrusters, so basically they are equivalent to a DP vessel, DP2, I believe. And this is allowing you to keep position and to approach, not to approach, let's say, in almost in parallel, and to bring the barges into the transshipper, of course, or you can have simply bow thruster, pitch propeller, rudder with flaps. So in order to have a lot of maneuverability of your transshipper, in order to approach the vessels that you are mooring at offshore in a way that basically is avoiding collision. Just a few clarifications since we are doing the same job. Sorry.
Yes, yes, Vincenzo, I agree. I was talking, the question I think was mainly referred to automatic anti-collision systems. The maneuverability of our systems is something that is taken into consideration since the very early stage of the project, the design stage. All of them have 2 bow thrusters, flap on rudder, so enhanced winches. The design of the mooring layout is carried out in a way to facilitate the berthing between vessels. So yeah, in this case, of course, these aspects are really taken into consideration from the very beginning of the project.
I have a question for Mahmoud, which is relevant to operators. What is the most important difficulties your operators are facing when unloading sugar? Mahmoud? No, Mahmoud lost in action. Mahmoud, you are muted. Okay, maybe some technical troubles. Then there is another question for both Vincenzo and Francesca. Basic requirements for environmental protection during transshipment unloading operation, the dusting system, and etc. This is again environmental issue and zero dust emission policy. So if you can list what are your bullet points about this topic.
Yes, I can start. There are many things that can be done to minimize dust. So first of all, lowering ship loaders in a way to minimize the let's say the height from which the cargo is dropped into the holds into the vessel's holds is one of the key things. Covering thread conveyors with so tunnels and closed conveyors and transfer points, also negative pressure within the tunnels helps avoiding the dust during handling of dry bulk materials. Then the grabs are specifically designed with in a way that they close completely and so avoid the spillage. Then the hoppers have windbreakers to again, let's say, to minimize dust. Water spray on hoppers when it is possible, of course, to have them. These are the first points that come to my mind in this regard. Also, other things that can be considered from a design point of view, the size of the conveyors. Large conveyors running at relatively slow speed helps a lot in reducing the dust again. So the experience makes a lot. Experience in designing these kind of systems make a lot to
yes, it is a very huge topic, Francesca. We can stay maybe hours.
Yeah.
And exactly, there is a lot to do. Only one webinar for this would not be enough. I agree with you.
What?
Yeah, Mahmoud, maybe Mahmoud, you are back now. There is a question about unloading operation of sugar, difficulties during unloading operation of sugar.
Basically for sugar, the main issue, luckily here in Dubai, we don't have weather issues. That means rain is not there, so it's fine. This is one of the difficulties, is the rain. The other one is linked to the dust. So for the dust, what we do here, we cannot spray water over the sugar because it becomes wet and then it becomes sticky, so we abuse it. What we're doing here is we're taking by the grabs and then we are lowering the grab too much. Maybe one day in the future, I could share with you videos where we go down in the grab inside the hopper and then we open it. The result of this is a reduction of around 10 to 15% of the capacity because the speed of unloading reduces. However, since it is the direction of our direction for environmental issues and the direction of DP World and the government of UAE, so we respect it and we work this way. Else than that, we're all good and we are able to clean the ship down to zero sugar in it because we send our equipment inside and we clean it. Dealing with raw sugar is like with iron ore, it's very simple. So the main challenge is the dust and we deal with it by reducing the speed at the unloading. So we bring the bucket, the grab very deep down and then we open it. In the past, he used to open it at this level and then the dust used to flash. But nowadays it is no more. So we trained our operator to reduce on the speed when they come to the and we don't code them for this reduction in the speed.
Vincenzo, there is one question from our technical director, Pat O'Leary, about Neptune Initiative International. If this is still accepted or shipper specified.
It is an international initiative to which you have to sign up in order to promote it. So it's a kind of initiative that we need to promote in order to be addressed internationally. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, I think we are running
on Pietro, on environment. I have a question on environmental issue. I have one thing to say and also a question for Mahmoud related to the handling of agri products. For the environmental, one solution, for instance, for coal dust that we found is to create a dust suppression system with sprinkling of water. So basically, we don't spray the water on the coal, but is a very thin particles of water that is attaching to the dust, so it's avoiding the dust to come out from the hold of the open barge. So we don't need to cover the barge, and then and then there is an internal water treatment in our barge, so the water is not spilled out, but we can treat the water internally into the barge. That the water that we are using to capture the dust of coal. This is an interesting alternative solution we found on our barges in UAE actually, because as Mahmoud was saying, the environmental restrictions are quite high. I have a question for Mahmoud, if you allow me. In handling agri products, what about the shrinking factor? So in speaking with people handling agri products, they always tell me that, as you know, since if there are a lot of passages of the agri product in the logistic chain, and every passage, you know, there is allowance of 0.3%, for instance, then the end users is going to end up to have 1.5% less material. How you address this problem?
Now, majority of the world in sugar, they rely on the draft of the ship to weigh, and you know, to take weigh or weight by draft is something by the ballast, something that is having a very big margin of inaccuracy. So to solve that problem from our side, because that is even bigger than the waste that we're talking about. So to solve that problem, we've installed batch weigher with an accuracy of 0.1, and then we pay the bill based on our weigh scale. And the seller, or we have a yearly or a 6-month calibration for that. Also, we take an international attestation for this, and we present it in case we have any arbitration onto the volumes that are different. And usually what wins is the accurate scale rather than the ballast of the ship, weigh by ballast.
Thank you.
Yes, there are a lot of questions coming, but I think really we are going out of time. Therefore, maybe Ottonel, you would like to maybe close few words, and then I think we need to arrange sooner another webinar like this, because I see
Sure.
a lot of interest.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I learned a lot. I'm coming from the container side, so the bulk was not my specialty. So really amazing stories, amazing case studies. And I think, thank you, Pietro, for pushing, for making this bulk, I would say, webinar, which was, at my opinion, very useful, not only for me, but also for all the members participating. Also, as a PEMA initiative, we are starting the bulk committee, which was decided last week by the board. It means that the bulk is something which is really very important for us as a Port Equipment Manufacturer Association. So I wanted to thank again our speakers, distinguished speakers, our guests, and everybody who participated. And I think it was a very well done webinar with a lot of things to learn, not only for me. And I would say that the bulk is going great. I saw the figures, there's no discussion about that. So the economy is going to be back, I hope, in the next X months. I'm not giving it 3 or 5, but it's going to be back. And the sea transportation, there are no discussion that is going back. So thanks a lot for all of you participating as speakers, as of course guests and the participants. Thank you also to Pietro for organizing that. Also to Peter Karaivanov, who was also making all the technical administration matters to make it this webinar working well. So thanks again to all of you. So Pietro, if you would like to have the closing words.
From my side, also really a warm thanks to this very professional speaker, Fernando, Francesca, Vincenzo, Mahmoud, a really professional and high-level presentation to the audience with such challenging questions. And my side, again, the issue, the topics I highlighted at the very beginning: environmental friendly application, digitalization, 4.0 industries, predictive maintenance, preventive maintenance, remote solution. I think that these are mainly the future challenges for our industry. Thanks a lot again, and I remind that this webinar will be uploaded in our YouTube channel, and therefore everybody can then follow. Again, thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day or good night.